Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for coming in today. What I want to talk about is ICP, Internet Computer Protocol. In this video, I'm going to give a little bit of a review from the perspective of someone who doesn't own it. So this is not going to be a super moon boyish hype video. This is definitely nothing full of complete FUD. I've had a few people ask me my thoughts on it, and I'm going to give you guys my thoughts. So I will always be open to doing reviews like this if it's a crypto that I'm familiar with or I had a good familiarity with in the past. And ICP is one that I've always liked. I've always been on the bullish side of the spectrum with it. I just never hopped into it. I did a lot of research into it a couple years back, shortly after it first came out, and you just watched the price boom, and that kind of had my interest. But obviously there's reasons why I didn't get into it. I chose a few others instead, but there are a lot of good crypto. There's a lot of crap out there too, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of good ones out there. So today I want to talk about the pros and the cons in a baseline review of ICP. If you are big into ICP, you are a maxi, or you've been studying and investing for years, I will probably not say anything you don't know. This is much more for those who are looking into it or early on to it or need a reminder as to why it may be a good crypto for them to get in their portfolio. So if you are an established ICP holder, feel free, put your comments down below. Let us know something else that is hypish about it. What's your favorite thing of it? What's a catalyst that you're looking forward to? Share and help educate down below. And again, anyone else has questions, add comments, clarifications. Let's do it. Let's hop right into what ICP is and a little bit of what makes it it. So, in the base core of what ICP is, it wants to redo the internet, guys. It wants to put the internet on blockchain. So in short, it wants to make sure it doesn't run just DeFi. It does not just run NFTs. It is not just payment processing. It wants to do the whole kit and caboodle, the full stack, front end, back end, storage, compute, every aspect of it. And they want to run it directly on decentralized blockchain network. It's pretty much trying to be the competitors to centralized data storage like Google Cloud, for example. So the vision for them is just to reduce the entire reliance on centralized cloud providers. Again, Google Cloud, AWS, Azure, by allowing developers to host entire applications fully on-chain. Again, they're trying to decentralize the internet. Very ambitious mode. Really interesting and niche mode too, specifically for a layer 1. And their entire goal from this is making it so that way websites, social apps, enterprise tools, everything that runs on traditional servers, move it decentralized. Now, to be clear, again, this is quite a large, ambitious claim and goal. So it takes time and it takes a lot of development. And ICP themselves have been marketing themselves as the world computer. And that's just a very different category than most other layer 1s, and it's intriguing to say the very least. So who made it and should we care? So I'm a big believer on knowing who the team is. Who do they know? What they did? Who have they worked with in the past? It lets you know a lot of their capabilities. So ICP was created by Dominic Williams and the Infinity Foundation back in 2016 in good old Switzerland. The team spent years researching and doing all the cryptography before launching the mainnet in 2021. So they had 5 years essentially of development and research to start constructing to release this decentralized internet protocol. Dfinity, they had deep engineering talent, top notch, where even a lot of the critics and some of their competitors were generally saying, yeah, their technical architecture is pretty damn good, it's sophisticated, it's solid. When you have the people who are competing against you telling that your tech's pretty good, you're doing several things right. Now, it takes a lot more than good tech just to make a crypto. We'll get into that in a little bit about developers and everything. But the technical depth is one of the big reasons ICP has survived its brutal launch. We'll get into that a little bit, and why it's still actively building today. There is enough hope and hype built on what they're capable of. And that's where the exciting part comes down the road for it. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit of the nerdy-ish stuff on the technicalities. Again, I'm going to try to keep this simple. So feel free to add in additional things or ask questions because this really intrigues you. I can make another video to go a little bit more in depth with it down the road. But their tech is a little bit different, and it has to be, because they're not doing just little cross payment borders where it's a couple of dollars or just little data packets signaling for GPS. The internet is full of a cache system, right? Tons of data compiled together need to be sent all at one time or in specific orders. Doesn't work so well with standard blockchain, or at least it wouldn't work the best that way. So ICP did something different. They have what they call canisters. All right, they have canisters as the advanced smart contracts that do everything else. And if you're not familiar with what smart contracts really do, in short, it's saying that when one thing happens on a blockchain, it triggers another thing to happen. Simple concept is when a $1 USDC goes on to Ethereum, it sends $1 worth of Ethereum to another address. Smart contract says when A happens, B happens. Now, canisters are similar, except they can store large amounts of data at once. They serve web content directly to the users, and they can run code on WebAssembly and be upgraded pretty well for scalability over time. So they pretty much conglomerate a bunch of data together and send it in hunks that they're calling canisters. Simplest way of putting it. And this is also what the standard internet would do. They put things into cache and into bytes and as large of a groups as they can and send them all at once. It lowers the things like latency or lost data or confusion, we'll call it, of the data. And this also function helps make it act more like a decentralized microservice than just simple contracts that hang around for a while. It's full canisters being sent through. So this is what allows ICP to run, again, fully on-chain, including the front end as well as the back end. Now, their network is divided into what we'll call subnets, right? They're groups of nodes that all run independent blockchains. So as demand grows, new subnets can be added. This is the scalability, because the internet has to be essentially infinitely scalable. Think about our solar system, right? Let's nerd this out to a different level. Of our galaxies, or the galaxies, constantly expanding. Internet's the same way. There's so much more, we'll call it web space, on the internet than there was 30 years ago. They need to be able to keep increasing in scale. So having subnet groups where you can always add more groups of nodes to increase the scale of the decentralized blockchain or decentralized web. Awesome. It's a good and easy way of helping to upgrade down the road. Perfect. Now, when they have these nodes that help out run with a subnet, there's an important little nuance here, is that node providers are approved through governance, right? So while the system is decentralized, it is not completely permissionless like Bitcoin. The trade-off allows lighter coordination and faster upgrades, but also fuels the centralization debates of is it centralized or not. And to an extent, yeah, okay, it's not fully decentralized. I think they failed on their initial goal for that, but I don't think that's bad. I think it has to be somewhat centralized to make it run everything it can. Things can get really lost on the internet otherwise, right? We wouldn't want the entire project of ICP essentially turning into a dark web. And that's kind of what they're trying to protect. I get it. So saying it's decentralized is a little bit of a misnomer, but it is relatively decentralized. When it comes to a little bit getting into tokenomics, they got an interesting little system called the reverse gas model, right? So again, they created this, they use this, and what it means is that the users don't pay transaction fees directly. What they're going to do is developers instead. People who develop are going to convert ICP tokens into cycles, and these cycles are going to power the computation. Very similar to like prepaid cloud credits. So this means that users can interact with apps and everything on the cloud without actually holding into crypto at all, right? And from a technical standpoint, this is pretty good. Anytime you can make a crypto project that people don't realize they're using crypto, that's a plus, right? Because you're gonna have people just turned off, call it the 45 plus crowd. Okay, some of you are there, but you're gonna understand what I mean by this. Oh no, I don't want to use crypto. If I said, here's a crypto credit card, that alone will shut people off. Like, crypto, don't understand it, don't want to do it. When in all reality, there's absolutely nothing different. It's still just a fucking credit card. You wouldn't even have to know. So anytime it can take out people knowing that they're using crypto, it just makes the world a lot easier, specifically for adoption. Because especially right now, crypto has a very negative connotative state right now. So it's always a plus. Not saying hide the fact it's crypto, definitely no, but blockchain technology is going to be a standard for kind of our world to come. And if you're already getting it hidden, I think that you're ahead of the game for this. Now, things that work in conjunction with the whole decentralized internet concept is they're also doing things like AI positioning, right? So recently, ICP appears that they've been leaning heavily into more AI integration, right? Tools like Caffeine that aim to let developers just build apps using more natural language prompts makes it easier, right? They're using AI to help developers get on and to, well, do what they want to do, develop. And if you can make something easier for people, they're more likely to do it. Or you can have the best tech in the world, and if you're like, hey, come join, come build on our ecosystem. By the way, it's a real pain in the ass. They're less likely to do it. You give them things like decentralized AI infrastructure and building tools, far more likely to attract more people because it's less effort on their part, typically less overhead as well. And those are certain things that I'd be looking for. So though this tech is undeniably ambitious, again, tech alone doesn't determine success. We need things like real world adoption. And this is one of the things that really slowed me down initially from getting in. I first looked into ICP. It was a couple months after they were released. It started at $400, I think it was, and it plummeted. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but there was early VCs, a lot of selling pressure that really turned off a lot of people. But there also wasn't too much developers at the time. There's the ability and the hope. And those two things, if there was such a negative sentiment, like people were calling it a scam coin because it dropped 90%, more than that, that didn't bother me. Like, I did not give a rat's ass. Anytime I hear someone call something other than a meme a scam, I know they lost money onto it. Right? But it didn't change the fact that the sentiment on ICP when it first came out was so low. I wasn't sure the risk versus reward of getting in. So I ended up making other decisions. The other aspect was the developer growth wasn't really there. And now there is some development and everything on it, but the adoption hasn't yet met the hype. So even though this crypto has been around for 5 years and the company's been around for 10, based off of where they are evolutionarily, it's still early. So if they end up getting even like 80% of the success of the goal that they want, and you're in ICP right now, you're probably gonna be really fucking happy in 3 to 5 years from now. But we do need more developers on ICP for it to really grow into what it was planned and expected to be. There is now, again, more developer growth, but it is nothing compared to like Solana or Ethereum. And it needs to get up to those numbers eventually to get to the goal that they want. Now, a little bit with the controversy. Again, ICP crashed hard when it was first released. And as an FYI, that is not specific just to ICP. It happens a lot. Getting in early on a crypto is a high risk, high reward, at least from what I've seen. I mean, I've talked about Linea several times on this channel, and I wanted in, but I was nervous to hop in at the beginning because many times I see crypto come out for 2 days and poof, and better for worse, it's exactly what Linea did too. People get hyped, they get excited, and people who bought it at a fraction of a penny, they're going to sell if it's like at 8x and people are buying. More than fair. But again, it does turn people off. So a big part of that happened came down to tokenomics. Right? They had a large VC invest at the beginning, which always causes selling pressure. Because if they release this thing at $400 and the VCs bought it in at 10, yeah, you bet your sweet ass they're going to sell. Why wouldn't they? But when we look at other aspects of the tokenomics, one, ICP, it's got no fixed max supply. Love it or hate it, it is not a fixed max. New tokens, they can and will be minted to reward node providers and governance participants. So they'll do it as an incentive predominantly. At the same time, however, ICP gets burned into cycles to power computation, so there is a burning mechanism. I'm a huge fan of that. It definitely helps offset the negative of there's no max supply, meaning they can always print more if they wanted to. Companies are usually hesitant to because of what other people might read or translate that being. But so far with the long-term token dynamic, it really kind of depends on whether the burn outpaces issuance or not. And it's going to behoove them to try to make sure that it does. So that is a minor concern, yellow flag at most to me, because it's not really that simple. But it does make it a little harder for us to guesstimate where is the token price and tokenomics and the inflation level going to be over time. And as much as this is a highly speculative market, the least we can speculate, usually the better. So, better for worse, ICP is very complex and they're kind of not on their own niche, but they're close to it, right? They're not competing with Ethereum, they're layer 1. They're not competing with layer 2s. They're pretty much competing with AWS and cloud systems. Okay, again, huge ambitious goal. Awesome if they end up pulling it off. And again, I think we're going to know in the next 3 years at most, because we're going to either have developers on it or we're not, right? So ICP, I think it still very much matters. I think it's just early in development. Not everything develops the same pace, right? You know, we might think that a crypto has to be so far in a 2-year period, but everything matures differently, specifically what the niche and the requirement is, right? CBDC-based crypto can take a while because there's no CBDCs yet, right? Having a fully decentralized internet, they don't really have too much competition on this, so they can take their time, make sure it's right, but there still has to be growth while they're figuring it out. So if I just conglomerate all this together, what do I think about ICP? I've always been bullish on it. I think it's pretty darn cool. I think it's not a required niche, which is its biggest downfall in my opinion. It is a cool niche that could be used, not necessarily required. So that puts the large asterisk or question mark onto it of, is it going to succeed or not? Because it's not needed. And the more decentralized something is, the less likely government regulation legislation is going to support it. So the fact that it's minorly or partially decentralized might actually be in its best interest. We're going to find out. But you let me know, guys, what's your favorite part about ICP? Are you in it right now? Are you a long-term holder? Do you just trade through it? Let me know your thoughts down below. Ask questions, put some clarifications and additions into it. And thank you guys always for being here. I'll see you guys again soon. Peace.